Development of specialized tissues is cell differentiation. This is triggered by hormones or environmental factors to turn on and turn off gene expression.
These are the structures of the cell. X is hydrophilic phosphate head, while Y is hydrophobic fatty acid tail, and hydrophobic is nonpolar.
Based on the diagram, vesicles are formed, only endocytosis forms vesicles. Synaptic transmission is to secrete neurotransmitter, so it relies on exocytosis. Feeding in paramecium relies on endocytosis to obtain nutrients from the surrounding.
The larger ribosome is the leaf cell's ADS ribosome, while the small ribosome in the chloroplast is 70S ribosome. Due to endosymbiotic theory, chloroplasts were a free-living photosynthetic prokaryote, and they were engulfed by a larger prokaryote.
These two sugars are monosaccharides. They join together, and a water molecule is formed. This is a condensation reaction, and the product is a disaccharide.
Hemoglobin is a protein in red blood cells to carry oxygen. Blood contains water, so blood is a transport medium for polar substances such as glucose, amino acids, and ions. However, oxygen is nonpolar, so it would be better to have a specific molecule to carry oxygen in the blood. This fatty acid is an unsaturated fatty acid because of the carbon-carbon double bonds. And this is a trans-unsaturated fatty acid because the two hydrogen atoms at the double bond are on opposite sides.
Insulin has a quaternary structure. One polypeptide contains 30 amino acids, and the other one contains 21 amino acids. The one with 30 amino acids contains 29 peptide bonds, while the one with 21 amino acids contains 20 peptide bonds. So there are 49 peptide bonds in total in an insulin molecule.
The nitrogenous bases in DNA are adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. DNA doesn't contain uracil, which only appears in RNA.
RNA polymerase is the enzyme to transcribe DNA to form RNA, while DNA polymerase is the enzyme to replicate DNA in DNA replication. Alleles are specific forms of a gene. Each allele has a specific base sequence to code for a specific protein. When mutation happens, the base sequence will be altered, and a new allele is formed to form a new protein.
There are 3 pairs of chromosomes in the nucleus. They are a pair because they have the same band pattern. So this cell is a diploid cell. Only somatic cells are diploid.
Non-disjunction happens when chromosomes have failed to separate in cell division. This is due to the malformation of spindle microtubules, which is responsible for separating chromosomes. The frequency of non-disjunction is positively correlated to the age of the mother, so the chance of having offspring with Down syndrome increases with the age of the mother. Cancer is caused by the spreading of tumor cells in the body. Tumor cells can produce new body cells uncontrollably. This is caused by mutations. Smoking can cause cancer because cigarette smoke contains mutagenic chemicals that mutate the DNA in the cell to cause the formation of a tumor.
Gel electrophoresis is used to separate molecules of different sizes and charges such as DNA. DNA is negatively charged due to the presence of phosphate groups, so DNA moves to the positive pole of the tank. The gel used does not have charge. Both detritivores and saprotrophs are decomposers. Detritivores feed on the dead organic matter directly and digest internally. Saprotrophs secrete digestive enzymes to digest dead organic matter externally and then absorb digested products. Autotrophs and heterotrophs refer to biotic factors. A system that contains biotic and abiotic factors refers to an ecosystem. The system that only includes autotrophs and heterotrophs is a community.
The graph shows the changes in atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration. It is not about ozone, methane, and nitrogen oxides. The question asks about the process that contributes to the change in the carbon dioxide concentration. Loss of coral reefs is the result of having a high carbon dioxide concentration instead of causes.
This diagram shows the phenomenon of the greenhouse effect. Shortwave radiations reach the Earth's surface, either being absorbed or re-radiated in a form of long-wave radiations. Some long-wave radiations will return to outer space, and the remaining will be absorbed by greenhouse gases in the atmosphere.
Evolution is the cumulative change in the heritable characteristics of a species. Change in the phenotype is not specific because some phenotypes are not heritable and are affected by genotype as well as environments such as skin color. Reproducing by cloning produces genetically identical offspring. However, it is difficult for the species to adapt to environmental change because when there is a change in the environment, the entire population may be wiped out.
Jellyfish is an example of Cnidaria, which is a phylum of Animalia. The examples for mollusca and porifera are snails and sponges. This cladogram shows several clades because these nodes refer to different common ancestors. Crocodiles and birds share the same ancestor, so they are more closely related than to other reptiles.
Pancreas is an endocrine gland that secretes hormones such as insulin. However, insulin is secreted to the bloodstream. Pancreas is also an exocrine gland that secretes digestive enzymes such as amylase, and the enzyme will be secreted to the small intestine for digesting food.
Based on this diagram, deoxygenated blood enters the right atrium via vena cava. The blood then moves to right ventricle before being pumped to the lungs via pulmonary artery.
This graph shows the change in pressure at X, Y, and Z. The pressure of X always remains high, so X is aorta because aorta is an artery, and the pressure in an artery is always high. The pressure of Y always remains low, so Y is the left atrium because the atrium has a thin cardiac muscle wall, so it can only create low blood pressure. Z is the left ventricle because the left ventricle has a thick cardiac muscle wall, so it can create high blood pressure.
Blood clots are formed by a series of chemical reactions. At the end, water-insoluble protein fibrin will be formed. This will form a mesh to trap blood cells and to prevent infection.
Emphysema is a respiratory disease, so the cause of the disease is related to air conditions instead of diet.
Feeling sleepy is caused by melatonin, while appetite for food is affected by leptin.